Hello world, welcome back. I'm Goddess Dawn. It's Tuesday, September 8th, 2020. And I'm here just real quick and lickety split to confirm that the U.S. 2nd District Court of Appeals in New York has denied R. Kelly's request for his no bond decision by the Eastern District of New York's Judge Ann Donnelly to be overturned, which the appeals court has the authority to do. Now I'm not at all surprised by this decision, but I know that by having watched some YouTube videos that some definitely are. Yeah, it's folks out there crying real tears over this and questioning God, who has clearly ignored their prayers for this man's release. God knows the truth and is on the side of the victims. Please believe. To understand why the appeals court denied the overturning of the no bond decision, you would need to know what the court actually said. So I'm going to actually read what the court said about this decision. I'm not going to read the entirety, but it's only a little bit of a page here. Whereas here, a defendant has been charged with offenses involving minor victims under 18, and a rebuttable presumption arises that no conditions can provide the requisite assurances. The defendant bears limited burden of production, not a burden of persuasion, but to rebut that presumption by coming forward with evidence that he does not pose a danger to the community or a risk of flight. So even there, they're saying that it is on the defendant to produce evidence, to come forward with evidence that he doesn't pose a danger to the community, and nor is he a risk of flight. And I don't see that any evidence has been brought forth aside from the word of the attorney or attorneys, and that's not evidence. That's just word of mouth. It goes on to say, even in a presumption case, which this is, the government retains the ultimate burden of persuasion by clear and convincing evidence that the defendant presents a danger to the community, and by the lesser standard of preponderance of the evidence that the defendant presents a risk of flight. So they're saying, previous to these decisions for bond, the government would have to have convincing and clear evidence that the defendant presents a danger to the community and that he is a risk of flight. So they have determined these things, and now from that, the defendant is supposed to come with his evidence that this is not true. And that's where there's a missing link. That's where the ball was dropped. It goes on to say, in making its determination, the district court must consider the following factors set forth. And these are the factors that were considered prior to this decision being made. Number one, the nature of the circumstances of the offense charged. Number two, the weight of the evidence against the person. Number three, the history and characteristics of the person, including his character, physical and mental condition, family ties, employment, financial resources, length of residence in the community, community ties, past conduct, history relating to drug or alcohol abuse, criminal history, and record concerning appearance at court proceedings, and for the nature and seriousness of the danger to any person or to the community that will be posed by the person's release. So even with that, there's a long list of things that they look at with regard to making this type of decision. And one thing that stood out for me was length of residence in the community and community ties. Now, we all know that Kels is born and raised in the Chi, right? So the length of his community ties, or his length of residence, should be a factor here. But it's not strong enough because, as it mentions here, community ties are also a factor. Now, clearly, he's not a pillar of his community. He hasn't done enough things to put him in the light of someone who was looked upon as a community hero, I guess you could say. He's not that. And it's really sad that he's been in that community his whole life, yet all he's done is taken. There are stories of women who were once girls in this community who remember him. Being banned by the gangsters. Stop coming around here messing with our young girls. Getting chased out of communities because he's a creep. So if they can't present to the court even the fact that he's been a member of this community for his entire life, they should be able to come forth by saying he's helped do this, he's done that, he's done this over the course and time of these decades that he's not only been an adult in the community, but he's been a superstar, somebody who has the means and the resources to lift his community literally up. And he hasn't done that. He didn't even do that for his own family who live in the community. So, you know, people need to really stop focusing on the accusers, or the victims, as I call them, and more so start focusing on the assailant or the criminal in this scenario here, which is R. Kelly. Focus on him and look at him and why he hasn't presented the necessary things to have himself released. He also has a burden of responsibility where this is concerned, and they just haven't been able to pull their weight. It's just a fact. So this goes on to say, Kelly also seeks temporary release, and under that provision, a judicial officer may permit the temporary release of the person in custody of a United States Marshal or another appropriate person to the extent that the judicial officer determines such release to be necessary for preparation of the person's defense or another compelling reason. So that addresses the attorneys, the defense attorneys, stating that they don't have the appropriate time and space to spend with their client in order to go over strategy for their trials. They have complained that due to COVID-19, as well as just in general, the fact that he's been in jail over a year and that the court dates aren't even securely established because of COVID mostly, which all inmates are facing these problems. You can't single R. Kelly out for these general problems. This goes on to say, we perceive no clear error in the district court's determination that the government has demonstrated by clear and convincing evidence that Kelly presents risk of a danger to the community, and by a preponderance of the evidence that Kelly presents a flight risk, and moreover that no condition or combination of conditions could assure against those risks. Okay, so there it is. They don't see the error. The only way they could have gotten this appeal is to prove that an error was made in the judge's decision somehow, somewhere, and this appeals court is confirming that they perceive no clear error in the district court's determination. It goes on to say, likewise, the court did not clearly err in determining that Kelly failed to demonstrate a compelling reason for temporary release. He didn't give a compelling reason enough. COVID is not compelling enough. Everyone's dealing with this. It goes on to say, we assume that adequate opportunity for consultation with counsel will be assured as a matter of trial administration by the judges who will preside over the two trials. So they're basically saying, look, these judges are going to make sure that you have the adequate opportunity for consultation with your counsel. They're going to make sure that, you know, the appropriate measures are taken so that he is able to do what's necessary and fair in order to prepare for his trials. Lastly, it says, accordingly, we affirm the district court's denial of release for substantially the reasons set forth in its well-reasoned order of May 15, 2020. And this is stamped and sealed. This is an official document of denial. So, once again, the answer is no. And there you have it. R. Kelly isn't going anywhere anytime soon. What we want over here on this side is for him to have his trials and face his accusers. A fair trial, a speedy trial. The faster it goes, the sooner he can be sentenced and sent to prison. I'm pretty confident that once he's there, the defense will file appeals and whatnot, but that'll just be them not letting go of their earning opportunities in the name of R. Kelly. The Beehive bloggers will probably keep their shenanigans going too. It's really sad to see. There's another hearing tomorrow. This one is the evidentiary hearing requested by the defense regarding the quote-unquote attack on R. Kelly. I'm going to go live after that, either that night or the next. But in the meantime, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't done so. Like this video before you leave me, and go ahead and share it if you please, and comment. Let me know your thoughts. Till next time, peace.